Today, Goodyear teasing new smart tires that could warn you before you get a flat. It could save you time and money. Billionaire investor Mark Cuban says he lost money on a crypto project this week. The coin he backed dropped 100% in one day. Look at why. And astronauts board a Chinese space station after launching this week. One expert says that gives the CCP a permanent presence there, putting U.S. businesses and the economy at risk. That and much more coming up at NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. Shares of software developer Adobe hit an all-time high Friday after reporting earnings that beat expectations. Adobe's latest quarterly revenue jumped nearly 23%. Once known for photo and video editing software, Adobe has grown to become one of the biggest providers of software for digital marketing. Its digital experience business, which includes marketing and analytics products, saw revenue soar 25%. Revenue in its digital media segment, its biggest business that offers cloud services, also rose 25%. Looking ahead, Adobe sees strong momentum continuing. Its earnings forecast for the current quarter surpassed Wall Street estimates. Ever blow out a tire at the worst possible time? It's pretty stressful. Well, now tire maker Goodyear wants to use artificial intelligence technology to warn you in advance, even days in advance. Here's NTD's Christina Kim with more.
New tech can predict flat tires days ahead of time. Goodyear's new Sightline system uses sensors and AI to measure pressure, tire wear, road conditions, and so on.
So fleets can be serviced more efficiently, addressing problems before they become visible.
Sightline especially aims to help with last-mile deliveries, the final step between distribution centers and customers. Repairing these vehicles after problems arise can be far more expensive.
In this game, you can't be late. It's a really zero-sum game. There is no room for errors, so you can't have your equipment breaking, and so for that, you have to be preventive.
If you call a technician after the fact, you may have to pay more than if it were fixed beforehand. And you'll lose revenue. Big problems for an expanding industry.
And for what we've seen, last mile delivery has grown over 150% year over year, and is going to continue to do that for the years to come.
Tire makers are spending more to collect and monitor vehicle data. It's expected to be a big part of EVs and self-driving cars. A large part of their revenue comes from servicing tires. Christina Kim, NTD News.
And Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg says virtual reality and augmented reality are the future, and they'll replace TV, even art. Even virtual clothing could be sold on social media in the future. NTD's Patrick Hayden explains.
Mark Zuckerberg says digital holograms will someday be able to replace TVs, books, paintings and sculptures.
You really need a technology that helps you feel like you're right there with another person in order to deliver those. So what virtual and augmented reality are all about is delivering this sense of presence, right? The feeling like you're really there in another place and with another person.
Zuckerberg spoke at a French tech conference, Viva Tech, on Thursday. Facebook's virtual reality headset is all part of its plan. The headset saw sales rise during the pandemic. This week, the company said it will start testing advertising within its virtual headsets. And there's more. Just imagine you need to prepare for an online interview, but you've outgrown your suit. Well, Facebook could save the day with digital clothes for the virtual you. Zuckerberg says digital goods like clothes are set to change the way we live our lives in our new reality. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
And the Supreme Court says Nestle and Cargill can't be sued over child slavery on cocoa farms in Africa, because even though they provide the farms with all kinds of resources in exchange for exclusive access to the cocoa, technically they don't own the farms. The ruling means it'll be harder for overseas victims to sue U.S. companies going forward. Here's NTD's Evelyn Lee with more.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Nestle and Cargill Thursday on a child slavery lawsuit. 6 men from Mali sued the two companies, saying they were trafficked as children and forced to work at cocoa farms in the Ivory Coast. The men were able to file the lawsuit under the 1789 Alien Tort Statute, but SCOTUS said it lacked a U.S. connection because Nestle and Cargill don't own farms in Ivory Coast. But they did provide the farms with technical and financial resources, like training, fertilizer, and other tools. In exchange, they got the exclusive right to buy cocoa. The plaintiff's lawyer said it was a narrow loss. He also says Nestle and Cargill control every aspect of the production of cocoa in Ivory Coast. That's why they should be held accountable. The plaintiffs claimed the companies knew or should have known about the enslaved children. They said even though the companies had economic leverage over the farms, they failed to eliminate child slavery. Both Nestle and Cargill said child labor is unacceptable and that they are working hard to prevent it. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
And toy sales are booming now, up 27% in the first 4 months of the year. Some types are up even 40% from last year. In NTD's Phil Zoe, it takes us to a famous toy store in New York.
Ah, there you are. I've been looking for you everywhere. Games, puzzles, toys of all sorts are up in sales. We visit the best toy store in New York City to find out more. That's what it says on the sign at the Kidding Around toy store in Chelsea, Manhattan.
Yeah, the wooden subway trains, mini pals, I really like them.
It's his favorite little spot. He knows to look for the red awning.
Toys such as stuffed animals, puzzles, action figures are up 27% in the first 4 months this year.
You know, on the floor with your child, like if they have a good toy, you know, that allows them to imagine and escape for a little while, it makes all the difference.
Outdoor and sports toy sales are up $1.6 billion.
Very important to play with them, to stay with them, to play with them, to keep their attention.
Store owner Christina Clark has been in business since 1989. She says sales were down 70% last year.
Very, very happy to be back and very happy that we're still here. If you walk around New York, you see so many vacant storefronts and so many businesses that didn't make it.
Clark says buying in person is a better experience than buying online.
And it feels really great to be able to fulfill people's dreams. When a person comes in here and says, I've got this particular kid, he likes whatever. And I love finding that perfect gift for that child, and I love putting it together.
If people enjoy the life they had before the pandemic, she says it's important to always buy locally.
Go to your local dry cleaners, go to your local shoe shop guy that fixes your shoes. Whoever is local, all that money stays in your community.
When it comes to supporting your mom and pop shops.
Oh boy. I also got myself a bunch of toys. I couldn't resist. Phil Zoe, NTD News, New York.
And stocks fell broadly on Wall Street Friday, the Dow falling 533 points, over 1.5%. S&P 500 lost 55 points, and the Nasdaq dropped 131 points, over 0.9% today. And billionaire investor Mark Cuban says he lost money after cryptocurrency fell 100% in one day. Cuban had, as recently as Sunday, bragged about making over 200% annual return on his investment. Then the Titan coin fell from $60 to $0 in a matter of hours, even though the price was supposed to be pegged to the dollar. It's part of a decentralized finance project called Iron Finance. So I asked Kent Barton at the crypto exchange Shapeshift why the price fell so quickly.
Mark Cuban and a lot of other investors were in a project called Titan that was basically an under-collateralized stable coin. So its objective is to maintain a peg to the dollar and not be volatile like other assets like Bitcoin or Ether. The problem is, much like a lot of other stablecoin projects, it's experimental. It's using new methods to try to stay pegged to the dollar. Essentially, there was a bank run on the system, and the designers didn't really think through all the implications. So the price of the asset that makes it stay stable started to drop, and then the stablecoin itself started to drop. So essentially, it was a bank run. Nothing got hacked, but the system did not work as it was supposed to.
And Mr. Cuban is calling for more regulation in this space, I believe. You think this is the correct path forward?
Yeah, this is a funny 180 from Mark, because before he was being, and very wisely, I think, talking about how the U.S. needs to take more of a hands-off approach. Things like this do happen in such an experimental environment. I think the main thing to keep in mind here, though, and the answer to when things like this happen is not more regulation, but just people need to be aware of the risks. Caveat emptor. So this particular project was yielding about 1.4% per day in interest for its investors. So just kind of from a common sense perspective, usually when you have a deal that seems so good, there's a lot of risk that goes along with it. That's absolutely the case here. People need to be cautious about what they're investing in. There's other projects, even other stablecoin projects that have been, very tested out by months of validation and billions of dollars. Investors need to be cautious about what they get into.
How can they protect themselves? How can investors know which is safer to go for or which to choose?
One is to just look at the protocols that have a lot of credibility and a lot of value staked in them. You can go to a website called DeFiPulse.com, and that sort of ranks which projects have the most, we call it TVL, total value locked. These are projects like Uniswap, Curve, Aave, Compound. Those are either decentralized exchanges or lending protocols primarily. And generally speaking, the longer something has been around and the more money it has in it, the safer it is. As an additional measure to protect yourself, there is now decentralized insurance options. There's one called Nexus Mutual I really recommend for a lot of these projects. So much like you buy insurance to protect your car or house, if you've invested money into one of these projects, if you have money locked up, you can protect that or mitigate that risk by getting insurance.
Kent Barton, Shapeshift. And imagine inheriting a valuable property from your parents only to turn around and pay a huge chunk in taxes to the government, even before you sell it. Well, that's exactly what will happen if President Biden's new tax law passes. NTD's Phil Zhou looks at what it would mean for New Yorkers specifically.
When you inherit a valuable asset from someone like family, President Biden wants to treat that as a sale. What that means is you would get tax capital gains instead of deferring the taxes to later on if you actually sell the item.
The government's trying to think of ways to come up with new streams of revenue.
Example, if you're leaving a $2 million piece of land to your daughter, she could end up paying $400,000 in capital gains tax alone. In New York, including federal and state taxes, that percentage can jump up to nearly 80% when you inherit an item.
Sounds way too expensive.
It's an exorbitant amount.
I wish that we all knew where our taxes were actually going. That would be really great.
Biden is proposing 2 bills that will cost over $4 trillion, he says, to boost infrastructure and employment. But CPA Paul Miller says we have other problems.
We have large deficits, Phil. We have to tell the government to take a pause on spending and let's consider debt reduction and let's cut some costs.
He says this is an attack on the rich, but others can be affected too.
But if there's strong appreciation in real estate or strong appreciation in the stock that they own, they may fall into that category by no fault of their own.
Some have considered leaving.
Especially in a city like this where everything is quite expensive, rents are pretty expensive.
But many are staying.
I don't know, I love New York, I'm stuck here.
Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
And Chinese astronauts are now aboard its new space station after launching off earlier this week. The mission's commander is a veteran Air Force pilot in China's infamous People's Liberation Army. So does this move give China a strategic military advantage over the United States? Space and national security expert Brandon Wykirk says it does because China now has its personnel and equipment permanently in low Earth orbit. Ask Wykirk what this means for U.S. national security.
The head of the U.S. Space Command said last month that this station comes equipped with a 10-meter grappling arm that can handle up to 20 tons. Now, in peacetime, the Chinese say it's just going to be used to help ships dock with their station. But as we all know, in space, technology is dual use. So China in peacetime could use that grappling arm to help ships dock. But in wartime, they could use that to pluck our satellites from nearby orbits and push them out of orbit or sabotage them. And also the Chinese have long talked about, because the station's been on the books for a while, the China planners have talked about installing a large laser when their station is completed in orbit. Now, they say in peacetime the laser would be used to clear orbital debris. But in wartime, that laser could potentially be used to blind sensitive American satellites in orbit. Already, China has pioneered the development of lasers on the ground to be fired up at American satellites in the event of a war to temporarily blind or dazzle American satellites to make our forces deaf, dumb, and blind that would be charged with defending Taiwan or the South China Sea.
Has the U.S. Space Force expressed concern about this specific launch?
Well, as I said, the commander of the U.S. Space Command did express deep concerns about China's the grappling arm on the station. Space Force has monitored it. There does seem to be sort of a ambivalent response from the part of the Western policymakers, which I think is a big mistake because, you know, just 10 years ago, China did not have really a space program. 18 years ago, did not really have a space program to think of. They got one guy in space in 2003, and ever since then, they've been on a steep learning curve. Yes, they're still behind us, but rather than being 18 years behind us, 20 years behind us, they're only about 6 or 7 years behind us now, and we still are standing still. That's not a good place to be with a rising China.
We see Elon Musk's Starlink sending satellites up to serve people broadband. We have Jeff Bezos is going to send tourists up to space very soon as well. So it's really becoming incredibly mainstream in a very short period of time. But are we prepared for any potential interference from malevolent actors like the Chinese Communist Party?
No. The military, in my book, I open with a space Pearl Harbor. Both China and Russia have worked on reorganizing their forces since 2010 to fight and win a space war against the Americans. And the first thing that they will do is to knock out or blind our satellites in a space Pearl Harbor type event. We are not yet prepared to defend ourselves, let alone retaliate in the way that would deter China or Russia from trying this during a geopolitical crisis.
So it sounds, how big a problem would that be for the military or even for just regular economy through communications, etc.?
Right. So it would be highly destructive. The military needs those satellites to do power projection. As you know, we're a forward deployed force. All of the threats are far away from our territory. We need long supply chains, instantaneous response times. That's all allowed for thanks to satellites. You take out those satellites and you've just removed critical bandwidth. And for the civilian economy, the same thing. We have, $1 trillion washes across the world daily through electronic transactions, perfectly timed transactions, things like ETFs. They require satellites. If you lose those satellites, you're gutting the global economy, the American economy specifically. You could send us back to a pre-1970s era. Some people may like bell-bottom pants, but they're not going to like going back to a 1970s style of existence. It would be hugely debilitating for us.
Brandon Wykirk. And a new bipartisan bill seeks to strengthen America's semiconductor supply chains by giving incentives to produce in the U.S. Under the bill, investment in domestic chip production, including for manufacturing facilities or property, will get a tax credit of 25%. Back in 1990, the U.S. produced 37% of the world's chips. Now it only makes 12%. Senators co-sponsoring the bill says it's a response to the subsidies that foreign governments like China give to their chip makers. One senator is hoping the legislation will bring a, quote, secure future leadership in semiconductors and stop China from winning the race to produce the chips. And the U.S. is advancing a proposed ban on telecom equipment from Huawei and ZTE, but Beijing says the U.S. is stretching the concept of national security. NTD's Patrick Hayden has a story.
The U.S. is advancing a plan to ban equipment purchases from Chinese telecom companies. The Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, voted on Thursday to ban equipment approvals for companies deemed national security threats. That includes Huawei and ZTE. The vote drew opposition from Beijing. It said, the United States, without any evidence, still abuses national security and state power to suppress Chinese companies. The FCC could also revoke prior equipment authorizations issued to Chinese companies. The acting FCC chairwoman says that the door is being closed on Huawei and other Chinese companies. Since 2018, the FCC has approved more than 3,000 applications from Huawei. The FCC action will block future purchases. In December, lawmakers approved a $1.9 billion fund for the FCC. It's to replace existing equipment from these Chinese companies. The FCC will vote in July to finalize the rules overseeing the reimbursement fund. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
And still to come, no shopping at Kohl's on Thanksgiving this year. It's joined a growing list of retailers that are giving the workers the holiday off. And dining next to the roar of a Ferrari engine is no longer a dream for Ferrari fans and gourmet lovers. The sports car company has launched a Michelin-starred restaurant in Italy to better serve its customers. And more coming up on NTD Business.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Why are millions of Americans moving their money into gold and silver? It's simple. The world has never been more unpredictable. The biggest economic crisis we've faced since 2008, and a government that's about to print trillions and trillions of dollars. That's why so many Americans are turning to gold and silver to protect their nest egg. American Hartford Gold is a trusted name to help families to safeguard their wealth. With an A+ rating from the BBB and 5-star ratings on the biggest review websites like Trustpilot and Google, American Hartford Gold can help you convert any qualifying IRA or 401k into precious metals. Or they'll help you to easily purchase physical gold and silver and deliver straight to your doorstep. Learn how you can protect your wealth with gold and silver today. Get this free 2021 information guide. Call 866-893-1493 or text TV to 65532.
Welcome back. Kohl's has joined a growing list of major retailers who plan to be closed on Thanksgiving Day. For the second year in a row, Kohl's has made the decision to give its employees the holiday off before Black Friday. It joins Target, Walmart, and Best Buy in closing for the holiday. But if you still want to shop while eating your turkey, Kohl's says you could do it virtually through the store's mobile app or website. The company says it will release its retail business hours for the entire holiday season as well as its Black Friday specials at a later date. And a rare Babe Ruth baseball card is expected to set a new world record at an auction this year. It belonged to a physician in Florida, and his entire sports card collection may go for $20 million. NTD's Colin Fredrickson tells us more.
This special 1933 Babe Ruth baseball card will hit it out of the park at an online auction this summer. It is the only mint 9 condition Babe Ruth card of its kind known to exist. Auctioneers are counting on it to break the $5.2 million world record price set in January for any single sports card. The president of California-based auction site Memory Lane says this is the first time this card has ever surfaced since his former owner bought it in the 1990s.
His accomplishments over the last 30 years will be definitely celebrated in this catalog because there is some amazing one-of-a-kind pieces that we as a company have been doing this over 20 years have never seen before.
Its former owner, Florida physician Thomas Newman, died of the CCP virus earlier this year at the age of 73. He left his family a vast collection of more than 1,000 sports cards, worth around $20 million. Newman began collecting as a boy, but his mom threw out his cards when he left for college. It was love, not money, that drove Newman to start again in the 1980s.
He loved his paper babies. He was such a dedicated collector. He did it almost every day, and it was his way to relax.
Newman traveled often with his son to trade at sports collectors conventions around the country. The family believed Newman would agree to part with the memorabilia and allow other collectors like him to share his passion.
It's cool for his legacy, you know, that he's put all these 40 years into collecting, and he's going to get the recognition. I know, unfortunately, as a result of something negative, but there's some recognition that it was probably overdue relative to how extensive his collection was.
Other highlights of Newman's collection include a 1916 Babe Ruth Sporting News rookie card and a near-perfect 1952 Mickey Mantle rookie card, expected to sell for about $1 million.
And as virus guidelines ease around the nation, things are getting back to normal at the happiest place on earth. Starting next month and just in time for the 4th of July, the skies above Disney theme parks will light up with color once again. Closing fireworks shows have been a popular Disney tradition since 1957. Walt Disney called them the perfect kiss goodnight after a magical day at the park. The fireworks spectaculars return July 1st at Magic Kingdom and Epcot in Florida, and the fun starts July 4th at Disneyland in California. And just remember before you go, park reservations are still required. And Ferrari is partnering with a master chef to open a Michelin 3-star restaurant in Italy. It offers a one-of-a-kind culinary experience right in front of Ferrari's headquarters.
Pictures of Formula One cars and real Ferrari engines on the wall. The iconic prancing horse logo as decorations. Ferrari is going to open a luxury restaurant in Modena, Italy in collaboration with a Michelin 3-star chef.
I said, okay, let's try, let's do it. And we create this incredible place with these incredible vibes.
The restaurant's designer is an Iranian-French architect. And it used to be Ferrari's cafeteria, training center, and changing room. It closed in 2019, and now the sports car manufacturer relaunches it to provide customers with more than just supercars. With more affordable prices than haute cuisine restaurants, it will be a good place for both Ferrari owners and gourmet lovers. The chef is known to cherish conventions. His major concept is to juxtapose culinary traditions and innovation with modern design.
I'm looking at the past in a critic way, not in a nostalgic one. To bring the best from the past into the future. To renew tradition, exactly as Ferrari does every day.
He will offer gourmet cuisine featuring local specialty ingredients from Modena. This is what he calls signature dishes for the restaurant.
I think if Enzo Ferrari would come, sit here, and would eat the tortellini as a historic compromise. Not with chicken broth, not with cream, but with Parmigiano Reggiano sauce. So it's a creamy sauce made with water and 36-month Parmigiano that is like we're gonna serve on top of that after they're being cooked in chicken broth.
This is not the first time the Italian chef has worked with a luxury brand. In 2018, he opened with Gucci a 50-seat restaurant in Florence.
As the latest business updates for this week, in fact, you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for this week. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
We have
have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.